Hello, I'm Amalie. I'm a second year student at the University of Plymouth, and today I'm speaking to Jeremy Goslin.
Hello,
Hello, how are you?
I'm great.
Good. I just wanted to ask you first, do you want to give a little bit of an intro about your role and anyone that maybe doesn't know who you are or what you do here at the university?
Fair enough. So I'm the head of the School of Psychology. So it's like being a headmaster at a school, and I do the same sort of things that a headmaster does. So organise all the staff and the programs. And, if a student has been particularly good or particularly naughty, then that's when I would see that student. But otherwise, I teach on the program as normal. I teach in the second year of the program, and I have tutorial students and dissertation students, just like any of the other academics.
Yeah.
But that's my role.
Yeah. How much authority do you have? Are you allowed to expel people?
I suppose so. If you've been really naughty,
really bad.
You've been really naughty. But it's I don't think it's ever happened, and I've been doing it for 5 years. We've never had to sort of expel anyone from the university, so that's good. I hope that won't happen.
Have you ever been a lecturer here? Do you do lectures, or is that not part of?
No, I do lectures in the second year. I teach psycholinguistics, the psychology of language, to our second year students. So I do that as well.
What's your main interest in psychology, or your main kind of like the branch of psychology that you're interested in?
So I've done a lot of research on the psychology of language, really understanding how we acquire and use words. So looking at from a developmental psychology perspective, and looking at how children around sort of 3 years of age acquire their first words. But I also do other research, which really comes from my early career, where I was I was sort of doing research in AI. So my PhD was in AI. It wasn't in psychology. So I sort of returned to that now. AI has become, I suppose, more at the forefront of what we're doing. We're all aware of how AI is used it's becoming more important in modern society and used in industry and, personal use as well.
Yeah.
When I first started doing it, it's really around how can we use humans, how can we advance AI by understanding how humans work. Yeah. And now it's like AI has now become so advanced. It's really about, it's like psychology of how we use AI. So how do humans and AI interact? How can we learn how to use AI and understand how AI works to enable us to use it better, and to understand when to trust AI and its responses, and when to also mistrust AI and responses, because we don't really understand how it works. So a lot of that is based on trust, which feeds into human-to-human trust, and that's been the center of research in psychology for decades and decades.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, my main interest currently is every time I've had a module about children and development and young to adult and the changes that go on, I think that's the thing that interests me most. I think long term I want to work with children and neurodiversity specifically, and how things that affect it, how one might defer to someone that's neurotypical. That's the thing that I find most interesting. Yeah.
So what sort of age range are you interested in? Because we've got the baby lab here, which really deals with sort of 1 to 4 years old, or is it more sort of older school age children?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think more, kind of like 8 to 18, 10 to 18 realm.
So we've got the school lab and Pat who does research on that. So that might be interesting.
Yeah.
I thought doing a placement as well. We've got some amazing placements with different schools, including schools, sort of SEND schools as well in the area. So doing a placement there might be fantastic to actually put this into practice and work with the kids and work with the teachers about trying to understand what they want.
Yeah.
What are the sort of challenges they face?
Yeah. So your role here is, I guess, fairly broad. You do multiple different things.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the different things that you've done from the start of your carear to the end. Are there different routes that you've taken? Has it switched up?
All right.
Different jobs
I'm
you've had?
very old now, so that takes quite some time. I think one of the big advantages of being a sort of an academic, especially when you're younger, is you get a chance to travel around and work in different areas, because it's not as if if you're a specialist in this one little thing, can't find a job down the road. There'll be someone doing research in probably only about 4 or 5 different parts of the world. The entire planet is doing research in that sort of area. So you get to travel to lots of different places. So I've worked in I started my PhD in AI, as I said, and I became more interested in understanding how we could take an understanding of human psychology and use that to build the AI. So I sort of started my PhD in Sheffield, and then I moved after a year to Geneva, where they were doing this sort of research in a very early speech understanding. I sort of moved to a psychology department in Geneva, and I stayed there for 6 years because I just went there. I was supposed to go there for a month to get this bit of information I could take back, but it took years and years to actually find. I never actually got the answer to the question I wanted.
Really?
Never actually found out, but I did other research there. So I went to Geneva for 6 years, and then from there to Boston University, to Tufts University for a while. So I lived in America for a while. That was interesting.
That's cool.
And then came back across the Atlantic again and went and worked in Marseille, which is lovely, in south of France. And then from there to Plymouth. And I haven't moved from Plymouth for 20
that's a bit
years.
of a difference, south of France to
South
Plymouth.
of France. It's the same sort of thing. It's just the temperature difference. You're still living next to the sea, Mediterranean Sea, rather than the English Channel. But they're still at the heart, cities by the sea, and they're very, a lot of the culture and the joy of being in Plymouth and in Marseille was just close proximity to the sea.
Well, that's amazing, going to so many different places. Yeah, that's great. I would love to be able to work somewhere. Well, I'd love to be able to work remotely, so that I have the freedom to work anywhere at some point in the future.
What's the advantage of of when you graduate and and you get a job that you can work anywhere? Your horizons aren't limited. So it's not just about, I think, working remotely, but just working in that area, going to those different places around the world and working there. Because I think you really only understand the culture if you actually, if you're working and living there and you're paying tax and you're having to be involved in the bureaucracy there, getting an apartment or or getting your electricity connected and things like that. So it's really understand what it's like to live in a place. So I think that's what's most exciting. So if you had to choose, a place in the world where you'd like to live, if you had to say live there for a year as part of a job, where would you like to go? Where would you like to go?
Well, that's such a good question. There's so many places. I feel like somewhere European, I think, like a nice European city. Maybe somewhere in Spain. Maybe like a year in Spain. I feel like that would be a quite nice study abroad place, or live for a while.
Somewhere like Barcelona or in the south of Spain,
or a city. But then when I'm older, I definitely would want to be somewhere more quiet and coastal and more relaxed.
So what is it that brought you to psychology? What is it that sort of suddenly you decided, I want to be a psychologist?
So I actually have such a specific vision, like moment, that I always tell people when they ask me why I got into psychology, because I remember so vividly. I was so young. I think a lot of people are interested in psychology but maybe don't know what path they want to go into. I mean, it's quite normal. I'm in my early 20s. Lots of people don't know what they want to do until they're a bit older, but I've always been so headstrong about what I want to do. So my dad was in the military when I was younger. So we moved around a lot. I've been to lots of different schools, lived in lots of different places within the UK. And my parents put me into play therapy when I was about 5 or 6. And I was in it for years and years, just kind of, I guess, for some stability and just to make sure that I felt stable in a slightly unstable environment of moving around a lot. And since then, she had a little outhouse, the play therapist that I went to. So she had her actual house and then a little converted barn. And obviously it was for children. It was, for a 5-year-old, it was the most fun room I'd ever been in. There was toys, there was a sandbox, there was all sorts. It was
paradise.
Literally.
Paradise.
And I remember thinking, I would love to do this and work and help young children. And as I got older, it became quite prevalent that I had ADHD. And then I got diagnosed when I was 16, but I kind of knew before that. And I thought that play therapy probably really helped me. That those weekly sessions really helped me with my schooling and, I don't know, just social interaction, I guess, and just the specific things that she helped me with. And I thought I would love to be able to help young children in the same way that I was helped. So yeah, that's the moment that I first became interested in the realm of psychology and knowing that I wanted to, or knowing what I wanted to do. And then as I got older, the things that I started researching the most, it was actually in lockdown back in 2020, 2021. And the first time I was really learning about my brain and coming to understand how my brain worked and what things worked for me with my GCSEs at the time. and I just did lots of research, and I listened to lots of TED Talks about ADHD and neurodiversity. And it was just really fascinating me, partly because it's my own brain, and that's obviously interesting understanding. But I thought I'd really love to be able to help younger children learn about their brain and understand what things help them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the main thing.
That's your epiphany moment.
Yeah,
this is what I want
it's
to do.
so specific.
So you've been successful so far. You've got there. You're studying psychology.
Yeah.
So why did you choose to come to Plymouth? Loads of different places you study psychology. Why Plymouth?
It was really easy for me. It was everywhere I applied was kind of coastal, and Plymouth was the most coastal, and that is the stereotypical why everyone comes to Plymouth University. But for me, I really am a sea lover. I just knew I wanted to be somewhere by the water, because I thought, and well, this is just what I do. If I've had a stressful day at uni, I can literally go on a 20-minute walk and literally be by the sea. And that's so amazing to me, because I've never lived somewhere particularly coastal. I've lived down south a lot.
Oh, so you've been attracted to you've never actually lived by the coast, but you always wanted to.
I've always wanted to. So
has it lived up to its promise?
It has.
It's good as it. So do you go in the water much? I mean, do you just like to look at it?
Depends. I'm not as adventurous. Lots of my friends do sea swimming, and I'm not quite as adventurous as that. But I have a paddleboard, and I like to go on my paddleboard a lot. I like to be on the water, not necessarily. Well, I do like to be in the water.
A bit warmer.
The temperature is definitely a big factor in that. But in summer, I do go in. I swim out to the pontoons.
Okay.
But yeah.
So what's the most exciting place? Where's your preferred place to go paddleboarding?
I go from Devil's Point by Royal William Yard. It's a 15-minute drive, if that. And that's really nice. And I've never actually paddled out to Drake Island, but I really want to. I really just want to go out that far. I've not been out too far by myself.
Yeah.
But it's really nice because you can go to places that you can't walk to. And if you go just up to the left, up towards the Hoe, there's all these little, just little coves kind of, and where the water's really shallow and there's rocks and places to sit that you can't get to by walking. So that's really my favourite place. You can also go across to Mount Edgecombe.
Yeah,
literally
across to Tamar, across to Cornwall.
Yeah, and it doesn't take long at all, and they've got a nice beach there. So that's nice. And then if I go a bit further away, well, there's loads of places. I went to this, I feel like just in Devon and Cornwall, this is why for me, someone that's a sea lover and someone that really likes going outside and being outside, it's just a perfect place because Plymouth is right in the centre of between Devon and Cornwall. So less than an hour's drive away, and you can be somewhere that doesn't maybe look even like England. There was this one place called is it Talland Bay? It was completely really just a random quiet, not much there. There's a little cute cafe, and the water was just so crystal clear blue. It was amazing. It was so nice. I was like, I genuinely feel like I'm on holiday. So that's definitely my favourite place I've been to.
So you've done the field trip?
Yes.
The first year field trip where you went out to Tregantle Beach.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that? Did you learn much from the field trip out there? That was part of environmental psychology, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did really like environmental psychology, actually. That was not one that I thought I'd be particularly interested in. But yeah, I actually found it quite interesting.
So there you got to look at sort of different creatures, and there were sort of experts showing you what sort of creatures did and what their environment was. Yeah. And the effect the environment had on you as well.
Yeah. And then there was one to Eden Project as well, which was more recent, which I didn't go on. But my friends went on that to do some social media coverage, and it looked really good. And they were kind of looking at
You'll be going the second year next year?
No. Yes.
So you'll be going there next year?
Oh yeah, I will. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a student, as part of
So I'll be able to go and see I don't know specifically what they were doing.
So you're doing, so it's around health psychology, and it's like looking at how, so Eden Project, you've got
about how it changes
different domes. You've got a tropical dome, and you've got a Mediterranean dome. Yeah. And they're looking at the sort of the temperature and environmental differences in those domes and how it affected the sort of neurocognition. So you're wearing what's known as FNIRS headsets, or functional near-infrared spectroscopy, which measures blood oxygenation, and looking at how basically the physical environment you're in changes, how your brain reacts to stimuli. So going across sort of high rope bridges in the top of the tropical dome where it gets really hot, and then taking it down to a more sort of sedate, relaxing environment in the Mediterranean dome, sort of really seeing how human cognition is affected by the sort of physical environment.
Yeah. the headset that you were just talking about with Sean Fallon on one of the open days, all the rooms downstairs that had all the different lecturers kind of showing just a snippet into their specific area of psychology that they're interested in. I went into Sean Fallon's and he put it on me, and he got me to do maths questions, and he was asking me about where my favourite places were to go, maybe on a holiday, or where I'd relax the most. And then afterwards we were able to look at how my brain changed in maybe the difference from like an exam hall to somewhere tropical on holiday.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting.
Yeah. That's what you get to do.
Yeah.
Next year in the Eden Project.
Yeah. I'm excited because I've only been in Plymouth for 2 years. How long have you been here?
20 years.
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
It's changed quite a bit over the last 20 years, much for the better. So
and
this is what attracted me, the same sort of things that attracted you to Plymouth, attracted me to Plymouth as well.
Yeah.
There's not many places in the UK. Having sort of spent many years abroad in lots of different places, there's very few places that I'd be willing to live in the UK, and it's got to be, it's got to be beautiful, and the people have got to be friendly, and that's why I stayed in Plymouth for 20 years. You sort of come here and you just think, oh yeah, it's nice, but you never think you're going to stay here so long. I never assumed that I'd stay here so long, but I can't imagine leaving now.
Yeah, well, that's the same as me. I came 2 years ago, and I think that this is where I want to be, like for the foreseeable, maybe not for my whole life, but I think I'm quite settled here, and I definitely think post-grad I'm going to be looking at staying in the area and down here while I kind of set up.
So you've been here for quite some time now, but you must have visited Plymouth. So as sort of last sort of anyone that's watching this and they're coming to Plymouth just for a day, where would you recommend they have to go and visit? What's the one place you think they should go and see?
For food or to see or anything?
Anything really. What do you think they should do if you had one recommendation?
My one recommendation would be to go down to the Barbican and to pop into some of the shops. There's lots of independent jewellery shops, art shops, like handmade wood. Like there's all different little independent things. And I'm trying to wrap my brain because there's so many things to choose from. If we go down to that area, because that's the nicest place.
The lighthouse as well.
Yeah, got the lighthouse,
all the iconic things.
The shops, all the boats, the dockyard, and pop into one of the little independent cafes. I really like. What's the yellow one? I've completely forgotten the name.
Yellow Cafe on the Hoe.
Yeah, the Yellow Cafe on the
I don't know.
on the Barbican. I can't remember, but they do a really good coffee.
Okay.
And some nice little breakfast stuff. Yeah. Where would yours be?
I would recommend going to the similar sort of thing, but just a bit further down the coast, to go to the Royal William Yard.
Yeah.
I think it's just historically it's really interesting. It's where there's a victualling yard for the Navy, and it was just the buildings are just so magnificent, from the 1800s. It's just a fantastic place to be, and it's not a victualling yard obviously for the Royal Navy anymore, but it's a series of shops and people live there, and cafes and bars, and it's just it's a way to go out. You can take the boat there, can't you, from the Hoe?
Yeah.
You can take a boat which takes you around there. It's just about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just an interesting place to go. It's got a cinema there as well.
Yeah.
It's just a really interesting place to
That's where I took my grandparents when they came down for the first time. I showed them that.
Were they impressed?
Yeah, they were.
Well, there you go. There you go. 2 recommendations to where you should go if you visit Plymouth.
Yeah.